Karen Reed is a free woman now. Yeah, I was watching that trial big time, and it was so good to see her be found not guilty on all of the major charges and only being found guilty of the lesser charge of drinking while intoxicated, and it resulted in a 1 year suspension. So that's awesome. That's awesome, especially with everything that that team has gone through and what she has gone through as a result of very shady police work. And let's be honest, anybody who watched that first trial or even the second trial, it's obvious that he was killed by fellow law enforcement agents. Uh, it's sad, but it's good to see that uh, this, the state threw everything at her to try to make her go away and have her convicted, and she came out on top. So, okay, that's enough of me on the soapbox talking about a trial. Now we get back into comics and why you're all here for this video. And so we are in week 25. And so we're reviewing days 166 and 172 through 172 of signed comics that I post on Twitter. I do this every single day for the year 2025. And on year 2026, I'm going to do my darndest to do 365 days of signed Star Wars and signed G.I. Joe comics. So, our first day, which is 166, was Mystery in Space, signed by Shane Davis. And I had Shane sign this one specifically because of the story about how he didn't draw the dog with balls, and he was made to to literally on a like okay, on a separate sheet of paper, draw a set of balls, send that in. They superimpose it in. So I had him sign that one. So, and the reason why I also wanted to have him sign this one was Shane has always been very critical of his work and his pages. And this was one of those books where he did stuff that he did like and he was cool with, specifically being able to draw like the alien tech and having that emotional and mental freedom to just go wild. I mean, I'm drawing this alien complex and do all this stuff. I mean, you can tell that how he speaks. This is one of those times where it's like, yeah, I like what I did. As he puts it, he goes, this stuff's cool. I mean, in his Eeyore manner of doing stuff, and I say that in good humor and fun. So, then on day 167, we have Marvel and DC Comics presents the Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans. Uh, when I first started going to cons to have comic books signed, I was only having Walt sign Star Wars comics. I would stand in line and I'd present him with like my 5 issues of uh, of Star Wars, and he'd sign them, and I'd thank him and tell him, "Oh, this is my favorite book ever." And this was one of the only books in the beginning that I would have him sign. Um, so this is like the first non-Star Wars book I had Walt sign. At the time I had this, I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. This was a special issue, and he signed it for me. And so, and I mean, I've seen a lot of people over the years get him to sign this one, but for me at the time, it was like, oh, this is so cool. And it is, because I mean, this was the first major DC Marvel crossover. Remember how, like, for years, people were clamoring for George Perez to do a Justice League Avengers crossover. And but this was the first one with Walt doing the art honors. So, and I like this one. I mean, and what I really liked also was you have that moment where one team standing on one side, one team standing on the other side, and they're shaking hands. And you don't see that a whole lot with crossovers. Let's say it's Batman and Superman. Okay, you rarely see them like where Batman's being having to go to Opal City because of a case, and Superman's fighting a threat that takes him to Opal City. And instead of when they meet, there's like kind of adversarial or they like slight nods. This is one where they're like, "Hey, how you doing? What brings you to Opal? Oh, well, I'm here for this reason. Why are you here? Oh, I'm here. Let's shake hands." I mean, you don't really get that. It's one of those like you have to have that the conflict and they're adversarial towards each other and they don't like each other. I mean, come on. I mean, that sends the wrong message to me. For me, it's one of those I'd rather have an instance where John's long box how he does his like last week was Nightwing versus uh, Daredevil. Instead of having somewhere like maybe in the very beginning when they first meet each other, they're fighting because they're unaware that they're on the same side. But when they do realize they're on the same side, they stop and they shake hands like men. Think of it this way: it's kind of like how it's customary at the end of hockey games and specifically in little league baseball games and little rec soccer games, or even in uh, high school, it's customary and tradition that at the end of the game, you walk in a line and you shake hands and you say, "Good game, good game, good game." You don't get that anymore. And I think in some ways I look at how like this is showing more of a sign of those times where you didn't need to have the characters like fight each other because of a misunderstanding and then they begrudgingly realize that they're being used and that they then will begrudgingly team up, but they're never really trusting each other. I mean, that's the way it is. And it's like that's sad. That's sad. When you have a common cause, you want to at the end you need to have that time where that opportunity for the characters to make amends and in essence break that bread together and come together to realize that there's more in common than apart. So there's my 2 cents on that. But I really like and that image that Walt did of Robin shaking Cyclops' hand, you see that being posted and being utilized so much. And it's like you look and go, yeah, you know what? We need more than that. Okay, we need more. We need more people to reach out and willing to shake someone else's hand. So, and then of course we have the following day we had Magic number 2. This was day 168, and I could see I only had issue 2 signed by by Tom Palmer, and the reason why I picked this specific issue was because this is where uh, Ilyana she's having to like she's fighting these demonic versions of Storm and Nightcrawler, and Kitty Pryde took Nightcrawler because he was going to teleport, pulled his foot under into the ground and let go, so his foot materialized in the ground, and you can see later on there's a panel where there's this broken foot bone protruding from the ground, and you know what that is from. So that was one of those deals where it's like when that happened, I always kind of look at it like they didn't utilize it enough. Where when Ileana would go to the limbo demon dimension, for you to see more of that, almost like for her to remember what she went through as she grew up from a child, from an adolescent child to a young adult, to a teenager. I think that would have been much more impactful as more of a who she is and where she came from. If you see more of that, and you could actually use that as a catalyst as she became darker and darker. So in the beginning, she would see that almost like that was her. With great power comes responsibility in the beginning towards moving towards a reminder of defeat, how you need to be towards your enemies, and how to not to trust them and do take whatever steps are necessary to defeat them. I think that would have been much more impactful with the transformation of her, having that as a visual reminder for her to have her soliloquies while she was in the limbo dimension. So, and then of course after that we had Marvel Fanfare number 33, signed by June Brigman, and this was one of those stories. Like, I picked this up because it was in the beginning when I was just starting to get the X-Men, and I picked this up. This was a wraparound cover, and it had the Chief Examiner as the main uh, bad guy, and I didn't know anything about the Chief Examiner other than what we'd seen in uh, the Marvel uh, the Marvel Encyclopedia, or official handbook of the Marvel Universe. So for me, it was one of those where I was looking at that, going, "Well, who is this guy?" Still don't really know who this guy is. As I understand, he was pretty much a character from a different series, like a Dream Quest or Dream Conquest series, but it was just like a one-off series. Um, I didn't mind it. It was like, for me, it was one of those. Like, I read this more along the lines of getting you a taste of the X-Men characters, because I really didn't really know anything about the X-Men. I was just starting to pick up X-Men comics, so that's the reason why I had this issue. So, and in the beginning, when I had first time I met June, this I knew of because I didn't know about Mike's Amazing Comics. I knew she had done this issue, so this is like one of the first books I ever had her sign. So, and then after that, we go into day 170, Marvel Snapshot Submariner #1, signed by Jerry Ordway. And Jerry's like your go-to guy if you need to do a period piece, because he did so much work in All Star Squadron. It's easy. Like, okay, we need to do a story that takes place during the 1930s, 1940s. Who do we get? Oh, we'll get the guy who's breathed it so much. He has done so many stories that take place during World War II in America, that when he draws a girl in a dress, or with her hair with a handkerchief around her hair to hold it up, you get the sense it's like, because he referenced so much when he was doing All Star Squadron, you really get the sense it's like this is how it looked like back then. And this was a different story because you didn't have necessarily uh, the Submariner being the condescending uh, asshole that he's always been. He was reserved, and we learn in this story that he is suffering from PTSD from what he saw over in Europe during World War II. So again, it was a different story. It was a different take on Submariner, and I did like that. So I would actually, what I kind of like if I was doing it would be to, like, later on, if like whatever book he was in, has something where he interacts with a regular human, and maybe he's being the condescending, like, I am Imperious Rex, I am better than all of you, and he interacts with a human, and he discovers that it is the granddaughter of that woman who was kind of like his girlfriend in this book, and that kind of like snap him too. Is now, it's like, like, brings that humanity back to him, that he doesn't like how it's like you can't really be a condescending asshole to everybody when you have an instance of, okay, I do remember your mom, and she gave me peace for a period of time, and I did appreciate that, and that type of thing. I there's too many times where there's so much lore with these characters that there's a way to bring it all together using characters from the past. And that's really where you really, it takes research. And I think that's one of the problems I see is I don't really, with the current, I mean, I'm sorry, but when you write a Superman story and your readers know more about Superman than you do, you probably shouldn't be doing a Superman story. Same thing here with with Submariner. Marcus Gilbert is probably one of those deals where it's like he knows more about Submariner than a lot of people because he's read so many comics with Submariner in them. Because he's really a DC guy, whereas I'm not. He's always been like more of a Marvel guy, whereas I'm a DC guy. That doesn't mean that him and I can't break bread. It just means that. Think of it this way: because I'm a Marvel guy and he's a DC guy, I have to defer to his wisdom of certain books. Whereas if it's a DC book and he knows that I'm a DC guy, he's not going to be as critical or maybe verbally combative because he knows that I know more about DC comic books and these heroes than he does. So what do? Instead of being adversarial, we can disagree. We can disagree till the cows come home. But really what's going to come down to is if we're smart and if we're mature, we're going to talk and learn from each other and make ourselves better from it. So, yes, Marcus, I'm giving you a nod there. And then, of course, we have Day 171, Mighty Thor. This was when Marvel was celebrating their 25th anniversary of Marvel Comics. And this was also a crossover, the first real crossover in comics. It was. It really wasn't even an event back then because it was the Mutant Massacre, the Morlock Massacre, uh, and Thor. Walt wrote it. Sal Buscema did the artwork for it, and it had Thor in the Morlock caves in the sewer system, and him, and this is part of that crossover. I mean, it was like X-Men and X Factor, but it wasn't just those, and New Mutants. It wasn't just those three titles. One of those issues incorporated Power Pack. One of those two of those issues incorporated Thor, and so it was really good. In fact, remember, it was actually in Thor where Warren had his wings pinned to the wall from Harpoon. And then Thor had to save him and then gave him to the fellow X Factor members to take back to their headquarters. So, but this was like one of uh, the first, in my opinion, first real X or Marvel crossover event, which led to, for quite a few years, Marvel always had to have an X-Men event crossover that incorporated all the characters one way or another. And something, even if they weren't crossing over with each other's titles, they were at least something significant along the same lines was happening at the exact same time. I think with Fall of the Mutants, and how even though the titles weren't interconnected, thematically they were the same. So, and then after that, of course, all led to Inferno, the big event. So, and then after that, we have Day 172, Mutant X, signed by Tom Rainey. This was a book which was, in my opinion, was an Elseworlds series. It was a what if or a what if series, which was like Alex is sucked from uh, Marvel Universe 616 into an alternate Earth dimension where he had died of a sentinel blast to the chest, and then he was sucked over from 616, and like everybody was like the the beast had experimented to the point where he had like the memory of an adolescent child with this big monstrous body, somewhat amphibiotic. Storm had been bitten by Dracula, and she was now not just had their mutant powers over weather, but also had the powers of a vampire and so forth. And it was really just like a what if series. Now remember how what ifs were one off issues with a condensed story. This was a what if series instead of a story, which it started out good. It started out cool. I'll be honest with you. Now, when I look at this series, I look at it more now along the lines of how we had Tom Lyle and we had uh, let's see, Tom Lyle and Ron Lim doing the artwork, and after Tom Rainey. And I look at it more for the artwork those guys were doing, more so than the story, because after a while, the story the whole idea just went completely off the rails. So, but it was, it was when it first came out, it was a cool idea. I think it was just they had a hard time uh, maintaining that good idea. So, and they just, I think also part of it was they kept expanding the world building of where they lived, which tells me in some ways it was all in this scene. They're playing doing by the seat of their pants. So I think as a whole, Mutant X would have been better if they'd worked it out, uh, worked the overall world, did more world building before they actually uh, did the series. But who knows? For all I know, I'm completely wrong. But this weekend is Heroes Con in North Carolina, so a lot of people are there. Marcus Kilgrove's there, Death Metal Hero, Jason Bascom, the Diaz brothers, Vaughn Coleman, Rini, and I'm forgetting people. I'm sorry. I the worst is there's people I can think of that are there, and I know their face, but I can't for whatever reason. Their names are eluding me. So if I don't rattle off your name, I'm sorry. Um, like for instance, I know Moromi. Moromi posted pictures of his lanyard, his 3-day early bird pass, along with the yes the incentives they got along with it, like a bag and whatnot. So, but so if you're in here, if you're in the Charlotte area, head over to Heroes Con. Say hi to those guys for me. Tell them Stippling Vaughn sent you. So, guys, I'm gonna get back to. I'm gonna keep working on this. I held off on not doing this area so I could work on it while I was doing this video. So tomorrow you'll probably see me finishing it. I kind of wish I'd been able to finish it right now, simply because it helps seeing this black area helps me see the rest of the page. But you can see that I've been really hard at work with getting it. And this time because I've done this one already, it's much easier for me to work from left to right, and I'm really able to see it. Whereas like normally you kind of just bounce all over the place to make certain you have a good balance of blacks, darks, mid-tone, light tone, white. Because you can really see where I'm really pushing with it up here. You can see different tones up in here, like this ear here. Here's a photocopy of how I really originally did it, and when you see it compare next to the ear, here um, so hold on here. Let's back up the camera so you can see how I'm going much more detail in the ear now, whereas I did the first time I did it. So, but you can really see that's how I did it the first time. This is how I'm doing it the second time. So, and part of that comes because I learned so much from doing the first one that I'm really able to get even deeper into the details with it this time, as opposed to the first, last time. And it also helps out also because the father asked me to do this piece at Christmas time to give to his son for Christmas. The father now wants one for himself. So This was even nicer because the father and the son now, and when I say son, his other son, this son sadly has passed, but the father with his other son, they can hold their pieces side by side and they can see the differences. So they can see that they each have an original. So that's the other reason why it's kind of cool. So, guys, I always try to keep it at 20 minutes. Going over, sorry. Um, but yeah, I'm having a blast doing it. I'm working more up here and here today. So tomorrow, when you see me, if I do a video tomorrow, you'll see more of here and here. And when I do the video, it will be in this area here. So remember, everybody, life is stressful. Just always remember, take it one dot at a time.